Hey everybody, Professor Padgett here. I want to talk to you about an exciting topic today, angels. That's what we get to look at this week, and it's an exciting topic because we don't know a lot about it. I would guess most of you probably haven't seen an angel. It's interesting though because it's possible we have encountered an angel. If you look at Hebrews, which is to the right of the Acts of the Apostles, if you look at Hebrews, it talks a lot about this idea of encountering angels unaware. Let brotherly love continue, it says in the 13th chapter, the first verse. And verse 2, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. And that's a great reference to in Genesis, where Abraham encounters these three angelic beings. Some people have posited the idea that that's basically God visiting them, like a theophany is what we call that. And many of the examples in the Old Testament of the angel of the Lord, some have even attributed that to being Christophanies, basically an encounter with Christ before the incarnation. You can join that argument if you want, but it's interesting to me because if you look at Hebrews earlier in there, it talks a little bit about the reality of angels. At the end of the first chapter, it says, are they not, talking about angels, all ministering spirits sent forth to serve for the sake of those who are to obtain salvation? It seems to me that what we realize is that there is a role that angels have, and you're going to recognize that St. Thomas Aquinas has a lot to say about angels, and specifically the hierarchy, but ultimately worshiping God and helping those who are on their journey towards God seem to be part of what an angel's job is as messenger. You can look in the Old Testament in Isaiah and even see a picture of God's throne room with Isaiah, I believe it's chapter 7, where Isaiah says that he sees God on that throne, and it's so terrifying and powerful, and there are these seraphim and cherubim that are worshiping God. What's interesting about angels, and I think maybe this is part of the appeal, is that they have this mystery because they're not a regular encounter that we have in our humanity with this. You could easily say this, that the human person is such a unique part of God's creation because we're not bodies without a spirit. We would call those zombies. And we're not spirits without a body, and those are basically, like we would say, ghosts in terms of the modern vernacular. But for us as Catholics, we would look and say a spirit without a body could be an angel or a demon, a fallen angel. But what's interesting about angels is that there's so many appearances of them in the Old Testament. In fact, you could think back as early as Abraham, and he encounters these three angelic beings. They tell him that they're going to have a baby in their old age, which is a miracle. You can see moments where angels were there to help Lot as he escaped the reality of corrupt Sodom and Gomorrah. And there are other examples of angels, especially when it comes to Daniel, especially when he was thrown into the fiery furnace, if you remember that story. Long and the short of it is, this week is going to be exciting because we're not only going to look at the biblical heritage of angels in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, specifically, of course, think about Mary and the Annunciation. Mary's encounter with an angel is a very profound moment in the salvation story. And certainly the angel, as the angel communicates with St. Joseph and telling him to flee to Egypt. The importance of angels don't stop, though, right after the nativity story. We see the impact of angels even in the early church, where an angel loosens the gate of that jail cell so that freedom can be attained. What I love, though, is that we also see angels in the book of Revelation and the role that they have there. All that to say is that God has a very specific and beautiful purpose for angels, and it's unfortunate that we know so little about them. One of the great frustrations I've had over the years is that people look at angels and they think, oh, that's what we're all going to become. We're all going to become angels when we die. But that's not true. We're a very unique individual. A human person is a body with a spirit. And this is something that God intended. So it's very unique in the creation story. The long and the short of it is You might find yourself very surprised by what you hear and what you learn about angels this week, and I hope that you do. And there's a lot of crazy stuff out there on angels, so it's probably best to stick with the biblical story of angels and what the church has to say about those ministering spirits that are sent forth to minister to those that are heirs of salvation. So enjoy the week.